right. I'm super pumped about this episode. I have my brother-in-law Kai Yu with me, and before I let him talk, if you've ever met Kai, actually, let me phrase this a different way. No one that I've ever introduced Kai to, or that has met Kai in my presence, has ever walked away being like, "That guy's super boring. He's just like, he's no fun at all." Everybody's always like, "Kai is fucking awesome. He's the greatest dude I've ever met." So I'm just really pumped to talk with you. But how you doing, man?
Good, flatterer. Man, I love your intro song, by the way. That is like pro quality. Like I am jazzed when I hear it come on.
Damn, dude, thanks. Yeah, just some garage band magic that I threw together one night. I wanted that organ feel with some hip hop, and hopefully that was accomplished.
You did that yourself. I didn't realize you did that yourself. That's incredible.
I mean, it's sometimes you just gotta lay down a funky beat, man.
You're so multifaceted.
So Kai is my brother-in-law. If you've listened to Richard's episode, he is on the other side of Richard's family. So Kai's wife is my wife's stepsister. So you can do the math on like what that means for everybody. It's always like you need a flow chart, I think, with our family sometimes.
How many prefixes?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Once removed or whatever. You just had a baby like 2 weeks ago, man. What's it like being a
Yeah.
father?
Man, it's amazing. I got to tell you, it's all I thought people were over exaggerating about the sleep subject.
Sure.
I think every single person that I know that had just had a kid or had a kid like in the last 5 years, the first thing they were like was, "Man, kiss sleep goodbye." That's it. Say goodbye to Mr. Sandman, and that's it's intense, but it like really hyper focuses everything. I feel,
Really?
I don't even feel it now. I just feel
Just part of your life.
jazzed.
It's just like you have to do it.
Yeah, this is forever now.
Right. Yeah. Well, until she's 18. Uh, but yeah, man. A new family. Like I can't even imagine that you even have time to talk with me right now. So I just feel honored.
I mean, yeah, I got to say first, I want to say thank you to Kelsey because, she, when I come home from work and stuff, I try to take as much of the load off of her, since she's been, just dealing with that constant like background stress and stuff.
Sure.
And keeping, little Wilhelmina, entertained for so long. I try to take her off her hands a little bit, but, she's like, "Man, get this going." Honestly, when you first asked me, like I totally had forgotten that we had talked about this because I think I was at least a few drinks in at the golf outing or so. Is that the first time we talked about this?
I mean, I think you and me were going drink for drink, and then also there was some legal substances in Illinois that were being consumed,
100%.
and I think that we just kind of got into it, and then you forgot, I didn't, and here we are.
Dude, yeah. And so I was really excited. Right when I told Kelsey, yeah, she's like, "Definitely, you should go, you should talk." It's a subject that I used to be very, very passionate about for half my life, literally 20 years of my life. It was very much at the forefront, religion. Um, and then I just like stopped.
Yeah.
I just like dropped it and haven't, entertained where I am, where my thoughts are, where my beliefs really are until we started talking about this. And I started listening to some of your other episodes. And man, you got some well-spoken guests on. And they did a great job of like really like taking me back through a lot of old feelings, which has been awesome.
Yeah, that's been the goal, man. So yeah, that's a very good place for us to start is where are you right now with religion? I mean, this is one thing that you and I think have talked about a little bit, but I'm excited to get into the details. So where are you today?
Right now, I mean, I feel very comfortable. For those other listeners out there, if you've caught Scott Bang's episode, I felt a lot of very simpatico feelings with him. And I don't know if it's just because we're both Korean American.
You said it, I
Both.
didn't. I mean, that was the first thing
I
that
mean,
made sense, right? I
it
mean,
was eerie listening to his episode, like how many things just like mirrored, everything from the socio-economic aspect of a church or that kind of community gathering in the Korean like community in the States to just, honestly where I feel like his general belief structure was with, you know, God may be out there, but it's not super important to him at the moment. And he doesn't ever think it would drastically affect his life if he decided to start believing in something or not. I think a lot of those similar kind of echoes are there in my life too. I don't know if I decided to start believing in something, if it would drastically impact my way of life or how I live my life or attack my life. But now with Wilhelmina here, my new daughter, those thoughts, like how do I want to be for her? How do I want to present these, thoughts to her and let her build up her own, thoughts on the subject? Like if anything, that's probably the most important thing. So,
yeah.
I don't want her to come at me with a bunch of questions and then me just kind of be a mishmash of, oh, I don't know, you can, try this out, maybe this, I don't know. Like I'm undecided and like, just be useless to her.
I don't think you'll ever be useless to her, man. So, so you mentioned Scott Bang and some of the similar characteristics of his journey. I mean, what would you be able to label yourself at this point in your life of like I believe in God, I don't believe in God? Where are you on that line?
um, I'm probably, I guess I'd say I'm agnostic, but in that I believe that I don't even know if you'd want to call it a consciousness though, is the thing. Like, I feel like it's limiting to try and even attribute something like what we would recognize as consciousness to whatever this entity is, or even if you could call it an entity. But like, I think I believe in, we'll call it like a reservoir, like a soul reservoir, maybe, where, you know, all of our varying consciousnesses like go back to and then come back out of. So there's like, like the laws of thermodynamics are still like, there's nothing that's destroyed or created, but it's like all going back somewhere and then coming right back out of that in some form. That's probably the closest thing, I guess. But I don't think there's anything that's has a recognizable conscious will that is wanting something out of us or is even focusing or paying attention in whatever way, like,
Hmm.
you know, to us, at least as humans.
So we're just figuring it out by ourselves. There's no sentient being that's saying this is the plan or you know talk to me and I can help you through things.
No, I don't think so. I mean, you know,
Cool.
like yeah, I'd say the closest that we can get to that, like, I thought back when I left the idea of religion behind, I think I was starting to look into Hinduism
Hmm.
because I think of any religion or like not religion out of any faith, it seemed to have like the idea that made the most sense, and in very general terms, like, you know they kind of believe in the idea of like like a well or an ocean of consciousness or soul matter, and then our souls, the Atman, I believe it's called, goes back into this well at some point and then like comes out of it, so we're little like scoopfuls of soul matter, I guess. um and but it's not like, but everything else, like all the deities, all the Hindu deities and everything are just like little little points of view of this, big god, structure, I guess. And like, so all these other different religions that are all over the world, there's a lot of very similar mindsets and thoughts. They're just different perspectives of the same thing, like this gigantic godlike diamond in the sky, and like,
Hmm.
everyone's just seeing a different facet, and so they all look very different, but they're all part of a whole.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, so you mentioned that you've done like a journey in finding
Mhm.
out like what it is that you believe. I mean, where did that begin? I mean, what was? I mean, I don't honestly, I don't know a lot about your childhood and growing
Yeah.
up and like the family structure and how all that played into it. So maybe just walk us through early Kai and maybe when that journey started for you.
Holy moly! All right. So
we don't have to cover that in all one breath. So if you want to start,
the
a little smaller, and then we can, gradually work up.
the Book of Kai. Here goes. No, so I mean, I am the son of immigrants. My mom came over to the States when she was pregnant with me,
From
and
South Korea.
from South Korea.
And they're from Seoul, right?
They're both from the Seoul area. My mom
Yeah.
and my dad. Yeah. But my mom always knew she wanted to go to America. And so one of my aunts was living in the States at the time. So she got a travel visa to come through here, made her way through customs and immigration, and managed to have me on American soil. And voila, US citizen. And so back then they wouldn't have split up a family. So my parents got to come over too. So I know we definitely took advantage of the system. But I'd like to say that I'm doing well with that advantage,
Yeah.
but
Absolutely.
trying to provide, I'm trying to give back too. But no, from there, yeah, we're basically, we're definitely maybe middle low uh, class, like income family growing up. I never really wanted for anything, but we definitely were not, riding high on anything or not a lot of super huge luxuries. But my parents always provided everything that I needed. But I tortured them by being a very stubborn kid. So the first school that we went to, my parents just enrolled me into the same school my cousins happened to have gone to, which is called Brentwood Baptist Christian Academy.
Where's that at?
Um, that is in Des Plaines, Illinois.
Okay.
So yeah, so right, actually, the planes from O'Hare, fly over that all the time.
Oh yeah.
But it was a very small K through 12 Christian school, Baptist school. Not that I really knew what that was at the time, but I went there for kindergarten and part of first grade, and man, did they have an impact on me. I drank all of the Kool-Aid, so I was like God 100%. And my parents were still kind of figuring it out at that time. I think we were going to a church at the time, but mainly for community reasons. And then I don't know why they stopped, but they started going to a Buddhist temple afterwards. And my parents are definitely Buddhist, like 100% now. Go to the same really small place that's in Chicago for my whole life. But we used to get into some huge fights over doctrine. And like, I'm 5 years old and I'm like having these like screaming matches. I remember with my dad where, my dad would be like, so like, you don't think your mom and I had anything to do with you being here? It was just this ghost in the sky, just, put you down there. Why are we even here? Why are you here? And I'm like, I'm here because God, God made me and this is the way it is. And like, I can't even imagine what it must have been like trying to have a doctrine fight with a 5-year old. But
Yeah.
um, I was hardcore about it. And so, yeah, we fought a lot, even, I had to go to temple with them. That was just, there's no real choice there. But, I just went through the motions, they kind of knew. I mean, I knew enough to be polite. I wasn't an idiot. So, like, I covered
What
all that up while I was there.
what did so when they came over, they were Buddhist, or did they convert to Buddhism when they came to the States?
I think they were Buddhist, but
Okay.
I don't think they were serious. Um, in fact, I think they only got serious. Honestly, I don't think religion like really played a huge part in either of my parents' lives.
Sure.
And even now, really, except for the community aspect.
Hmm.
At this point, they've just been part of that community for so long, and there's enough people that they know, and it's not like they don't disagree, but I don't know. I feel like they're average believers of like in pretty much any religion. Like,
Yeah.
you know what you need to. You go on Sunday, you go on the big holidays and the big event days. You are respectful to your monk, priest, whoever, and then you sit down and eat with a large group of people of like-minded people, and that's and that's
Yeah.
great.
You're taking the good parts out, and like, there's going to be people that believe more, are more into it, whatever it
Yeah.
is. Yeah, that's common. That's like the Christian way. It feels like for most of my friends growing up.
I feel like that's a general religion way.
Yeah, it might be.
I have a very small point of view on it, but I feel like
Well,
you go
so
to
do I.
every religion.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's just going to be there's that solid group of people that's like right in the center. That's like that make the foundation, but that foundation is really the community and like that aspect of it, rather than maybe like devout like
Right.
100% trying to progress the faith.
So a lot of kids when they grow up, they're when it comes to religion, they're taking the things that maybe their parents say, and then they're like, "Hey, we're gonna go to church." Okay, you go to church. Hey, we're going to Sunday
Mm-hmm.
school. Hey, we're going to Sunday school. Okay, that's our life. But for you, you had a little bit different experience where your parents were almost an entirely different religion, and you were going to school in this one specific faith. For a little kid to battle their parents like that, like you said on Doctor, I know you're kind of making a joke about it, but I mean that's something that's really interesting. I mean, what were the things that really spoke to you even as a kid that maybe want made you want to have those conversations? And do you feel like those conversations were something that helped you like define kind of what you are today, or was it just like I'm a kid, this is what I'm taught, parents are dumb, they don't get it?
No, I think so. So first part, what drew me in was, I think I've always kind of had a superstitious and like, I'm like really into like sci-fi and like fantasy and like that kind of stuff. So I think just even at that age, the, I mean, for sure the stories, I mean, talk about great marketization. Like Christianity has got the gamut of great, like mythological, like, tales that, that get the hooks in at a young age. And I was like fascinated by those stories of Samson and, the great flood and like, all the, I'd say the big hits of the Old Testament.
I was gonna say, it sounds like you're a big
um,
Old Testament guy.
yeah, I was really, I mean, I don't know if it was just a Baptist aspect, but yeah, I feel like the
Sure.
focus was a lot more there when I was younger.
Yeah.
But and then I like the idea. So my parents, they worked a lot, so they weren't around a whole lot. My aunt took care of me a lot, but a lot of it, she was picking me up, dropping me off at home, and then she'd let me do my own thing. So I had my cousins to play with, but they were older, so I feel like I had, regardless of how it actually was, I felt like I had a solitary childhood. And so the thought of somebody like kind of looking over me, like watching over me all the time, um, like it resonated with me.
Mm,
Like I felt like at that when I was at that age, I really remember feeling like I could feel like a godly presence, like around, protective, paying attention to me, I guess. Um, and then from there, like I mean, definitely like having those doctrine related fights, whether they made sense or not. Um, I think they really gave me the most important thing. I think that came from my search in religion was to always challenge myself. Um, those fights with my parents and later on with fellow friends that I just thought weren't pious enough, or other friends that, regardless of whether they were Christian or not, I was like, I literally carried around like a little New Testament Bible in my backpack.
really?
Yeah, like I never swore. I always tried to like do the good thing, but I was when I was a kid, I was not the greatest guy. I was a little jackass, honestly. Like
I mean,
I was
aren't
like
we
a
all?
highfalutin. I knew best. Like I was like definitely a little bit of a bully. And I did it all, with this like religious mindset. I think like this, like I'm holier than thou, and I can make it better. Like I can make you better. Like I don't know where that came from, but having those types of thoughts challenged, having yeah, like having my parents fight me and having to go to the temple still and be part of that, different style, different community, different belief structure. Like my monk tried to talk to me, regardless of whether I believed or not. My parents still made me learn and memorize all the scripture, um, enough that I can recite it, even though I don't even know what it means.
Hmm,
It's like reciting something in Latin. Like is
yeah,
the only equivalent I can think of. Like I can make the words, and I know the words are all right, but I have no clue what it's actually teaching me.
sure.
But yeah, I learned all of that, and I think it like embroiled in me. Yeah, that sense to take the next step, which was when I lost my faith in Christianity and God, and it was like, I mean, it was a door slamming shut.
Right.
My cousins, these are other cousins that happen to live up in Michigan, but they live here now. We're very close now, but their mother passed away in a freak boating accident in Lake Minnetonka. She got thrown overboard. Water was very cold. Her heart stopped the moment she hit the water.
Oh
So
man.
it's apparently very peaceful. And this was in middle school, it was in seventh grade. Still gets to me a little bit, man. I remember going up, and we had like seen each other like in holidays. Like I wasn't super close, but I was, I would say I was about as close as you kind of expect, like kind of, cousins separated by distance are, and like just the state of their family, how this could happen to this person that I knew that was a great person that I loved, even though I didn't get to see her very often. And then I remember being at the wake and seeing her, and that was the first time I'd seen, a dead body,
Right.
and how different she looked and felt to me. And at that moment, like I was like, I don't feel anything. Like I don't feel God. I don't feel a positive presence or a calming presence or something that makes sense out of all of this. And man, sorry, I'm like getting shakes a little bit, just like and
No,
like
I
taking
mean,
myself back there.
it's a heavy thing for a
Um,
kid, man. I mean, I think all of us remember our first, funeral or experience like that. But I mean, it
mm,
sounds like it had a lot of huge effects on you just from like not even this is a weird thing to see as a kid or even as a young adult, but from a faith perspective too.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I haven't talked to a lot of. I've talked to more people. Well, I mean, I haven't talked to many people who've like completely lost faith like that. I guess it'd be interesting to talk to some more to see like what their experiences were like. But
So for
it was
you,
like such a void. Yeah. Oh,
sh-
sorry. Go ahead.
no, you're fine. I mean, and how old were you during this? You said high school,
Oh no, I was in seventh grade.
seventh grade.
So
Okay,
I
so it's
was
so
yeah
yeah, very very
12.
young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So when you say that you lost faith, I mean, was it that day in that moment where it was just like, I'm not feeling any sort of comfort from God, this thing that I've gone to school for, that I've debated people on? Was that it, or was there that just the beginning of starts the beginning of the start of questioning?
that was, and I mean that was almost a 180, like right there. Like that moment, I saw her. I was like, I don't feel anything. I just feel a void where my faith used to be.
Wow.
And it was like getting the rug pulled out from under me. And I remember sitting down and being like, and everyone else is crying. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I can't even cry right now. And then I remember like making myself cry, knowing like this is what I had to do. And I'm
Right.
like, is this what I've been doing? Have I just been like going through the motions? Like, have I really like thought about what like this had meant to me? Or was I just just regurgitating like the things that I, have been shoveled into me, I guess.
Eh,
And I should
eh,
tell you that at this point, it wasn't like I had left that church or I'd left the little school,
Sure.
and I'd gone into public school after that point, but I'd
Okay.
still kind of carried that along with me. But I had like a taekwondo teacher who was very faith driven too. So he would always sit us down and like teach a little scripture to wrap up a day at the dojo. Um, so there was still like a religious, like there was still like a somebody who was my connection to God, I guess at this point.
Right.
And so it wasn't just like I hadn't been around, God for a while and then the faith dropped. It was like all there, and then I don't know, it was like a light switch went off.
What I mean, obviously this is Kid Kai, right? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
not 30 whatever you are now, Kai. But as you look back, I mean, what do you think you were expecting from a religious standpoint that you didn't get that made you start to have those feelings?
So, I think it went back to like why I think I keyed in on God so much. This fact that somebody is like looking out for me or paying attention to me or cares about me. And I think at that moment there was none of that. Like I didn't feel any support. I didn't feel protected or warmed by my faith. I didn't have any more understanding of why something like this happened because I knew or had studied scripture at that point. And I think it was all of those voids like happening at the same time. I'm like, I have no answer for any of this right now. And I felt so sure. And it was that gap of I was so confident in how I felt before, and then suddenly all of that was gone. It was like such a shaky foundation, maybe.
Hmm.
Um, just all of that collapsing. Just I don't know. It really stunned me, and I was like, yeah. I mean, at that point, I just like jumped around from like every possible thought or philosophy or religion that seemed to like sound vaguely interesting to me. Like I was like jumping from like all these like different like disparate thoughts and like faiths at that point
I mean,
until high
what
school.
what did that look like for you? I mean, as you're kind of coming out of Christianity, you had this almost life altering experience, and you realize there's more out there. What does it look like when you say that you're taking some here, some here, some here? Was it just like going online? Was it going to church?
Oh man.
Walk me through that.
So I am old enough now that there wasn't an online at that time. Wow. Isn't that crazy? It's
Dude,
crazy.
isn't that
Um,
wild? Like I remember
man.
having to like get the AOL CD and pop that mother in and get there.
Hopefully getting the new versions regularly so we can keep
Yeah.
staying on the cutting edge.
And then like your mom's yelling from nuts, get off the internet, I gotta use a phone.
Or when they just pick up the phone and they dial and they actually start talking, not even realizing that whole
Right.
time you're on the mode.
By the way, that was a great
Oh
impression
man.
of my mom. I mean, that was spot on.
Heidi,
Uh,
Chandler.
shout out. But yeah, so walk me through pre-internet, how you were going about this.
Oh man. So I mean the easiest was I turned straight to Buddhism because it was right there. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm not going to tell
So
them, but
you just took
maybe my
about
parents were
face.
right. Not like about fate, but like suddenly I had a lot of I had uh, a vast reservoir that I can ask some questions to. Even though my parents were definitely not the greatest. Let's talk about a weird game of telephone from somebody who's trying to teach the religion down to me. But I tried to talk to my monk, but she was a very old, doesn't speak any English, and I spoke some conversational Korean, but not enough to have like a religious dialogue.
Hmm.
So it's weird now that I think about it. It's kind of how things flipped a little bit almost. Like once again, I was this inarticulate like child trying to argue faith again with these elders who are once again another step higher in their education than I am and their experience. But so
Was there
I
any?
talk with the. Oh, sorry, yeah.
No, no. Before you go on, I'm just curious with those conversations with the monk. I mean, was there any specific topics that you can remember that either bothered you or that you want to know more about?
Yeah. I mean, like I knew the general story of Siddhartha Gautama, who we know as the Buddha. He was. I knew like the lore of his coming about. He was a prince destined for greatness. A fortune teller tells him, or tells his father, that he can either go the path of the warlord and conquer the world, or he can become the greatest spiritual leader the whole world has ever known. And the prideful king is like, well, I'm gonna make him a king, and I know the story. I knew that like the mythology, knew the general idea of like karma and reincarnation, and that life is suffering, and you need to live without desire. I knew those things, but I didn't really know why, and I didn't know why we were in a temple doing worship about this was the big thing, because I think I was starting to kick off of religion as like a societal or like a framework for faith.
Yeah.
um, and so I think I was starting to like try and like test those foundations a little bit. I'm like, like Buddha, like Jesus, it's like, the temple, there is no temple. Like, there's no place of worship. There's, and Buddha specifically was like, there is no God, there's no deity. I am not a God. Like,
And
you
Jesus, I
know,
think, says, "I am the temple," right? Like he
yeah,
he
like
he is the house of God, or something like that. I think.
yeah. And like also that the God, like the house of God resides in you, like it's
Right.
just like dismantling the, whatever the structure. And I was like, why are we here? Like, why are we kowtowing? Why are we bowing? Why are we prostrating ourselves? Why are we chanting? Why are we making wishes? This seems all counterintuitive. And I really didn't get a great explanation. Maybe it was my understanding, or my lack of understanding, but like it just kind of seemed like they were saying, like, we do this because this is what we're supposed to do. Like, this is like the best way to commune and find understanding to reach these levels of enlightenment. Um, and I don't know, I don't know, it didn't really ring true to me, I guess. It just kind of seemed like, somebody trying to be like, hey, keep coming, and
And you'll find it. Well, I mean, it sounds like
yeah,
I've had lots of conversations with people on this podcast and outside of it of just faith. Sometimes, if you don't have the faith or it's not ringing true to you, it's hard to get through to some of the other stuff. And it sounds like you were just struggling with both Christianity and Buddhism about the faith aspect. I mean, that's kind of what I'm taking away. Is that fair?
yeah, yeah, really. I was like, yeah, why do you
Yeah.
deserve my
Why?
faith? Yeah.
Right. Right.
um and then from there, like, I had a social studies teacher who was pretty awesome. And this was when social studies was getting like really interesting, I feel, and like was branching out to other societies and other ways of life. And so I think this is where I started to learn more about Hinduism and some some like nativism, and the pagan beliefs and stuff like that. I mean, back then, coverage was still pretty weird as far as a lot of like how history was tackled. But I became aware of these other religions. I was always like a library junkie, so I did some of my own research, but really, like, I mean, I was still a kid back then, so if they didn't have like cool warrior stories or like cool mythologies behind it, like I still didn't super pick it up, or like it didn't capture me. But this is where, yeah, I started like seeing like, oh, okay, there are other ways to believe in a god or a deity, and seeing the real similarities between some religions that I didn't know were related at all, like Judaism and Christianity, Buddhism and Hinduism actually share a lot too. Um, and then when I got into high school, I met this great teacher who taught English and also philosophy.
Ooh.
She really broke me open with philosophy, and like
Yeah.
this point I became a irate little existentialist, um and just only believe that we are here, there's nothing else. Life is life is your own pleasure, whatever makes you happy, do it. That's it. Fuck everyone else, because they are just figments of my perception, and that's
So it
it.
sounds like you're more of a fan of guys like Kant than Socrates or Plato.
No, yeah, it was little, yeah, Sach and little Schopenhauer.
Yeah, yeah, that's what it sounds
Oh man, yeah, like
like. So
I used to write. Oh, sorry, yeah.
no, go ahead.
No, I used to be a pretty decent writer back then, and the best thing I probably ever wrote was something I think I still believe in now. And it was titled "Provoking Thoughts and Punches," and it basically was like, you know what, regardless of whether you believe in a religion, a god, a faith, a philosophy, or what, as a human being, the best thing that you could possibly do is to interact with other people, because only by interacting with other people, having our ideas and our emotions and our feelings like butt against each other, and whether they mesh or they explode, those interactions will keep growing, form other reactions, and those interactions will eventually lead us down this path that will get us to where we need to go. Like, whether it's the end of humanity or humanity going up to a higher level or lower level, or are there even levels? Like, why is everything binary? Like, why is there good and evil? Like, there's all this other spherical stuff around it. Like, we're going to figure it out. But the only way we can do that is by going out there. Be a dick if you have to be a dick. Be a good person if that's your jive. But either way, interact with people. The worst thing you can possibly do is to stay completely encapsulated and make no impact on your surroundings, because then you have just been a useless, like, non-impactful being.
It just sounds like a lot of fun philosophy was happening at this time with you.
When you can
um,
make it up yourself, it's like, whatever, heck yeah.
that's all philosophy was. One time I wrote a paper in college because I was a philosophy minor, and I think the paper was titled something like "There is no right answer," and the whole paper was about how the assignment I didn't want to do because then there is no right answer. And but I use like the phrasing of the
Oh
book we are
yeah.
researching or whatever. So like it ended up making sense. But she's like, "Nice try. I gave you a C plus, but like you very clearly didn't do a lot of research." I was like, "No, it's like it's part of it, you know." And like,
What?
okay, like, all right, well, you caught me. You kind of rooted that one out. So when you were doing that philosophy stuff, that was in college then, or was that still in high
No,
school?
that was in high school.
Okay.
Yeah, that was, I think educationally it was the most impactful, time of my life. Uh, College was just all about escapism. It was just, why am I here? How do I get out of
Yeah.
this? Yeah.
So it sounds like that, in grade school, junior high, some of high school, you were, even if you weren't all in, bought into something, even if you've lost your faith other places, that it was still very interesting for you. Did that interest continue then in college, or was it more about just like getting out, experiencing who you are as a person, like every college kid does? Like where were you with your faith struggle at that point?
Oh man, no. After that, and that's where a lot of the introspection ended, unfortunately. Yeah, like I got into college and it was more, it felt like more of a struggle for survival at that point.
Mm.
Not necessarily all because of college and, and higher education, but just I feel like from that point on it was kind of a scramble, and then like the next 5 years was just like, how do I keep going? How do I keep going? How do I keep going? Um didn't I think I still felt pretty, I wasn't quite as hardcore an existentialist, because I realized that no, for some reason, like regardless of how much I felt like I believed in it, I could not treat other people like they're just figments of my imagination, and that they don't matter to me as long as, whatever.
Could,
I couldn't act on that.
could you just define existential length? Jesus Christ, dude.
Existentialist.
Can't even fucking say it. Can you define that, what that means for you?
For me, it was, oh man, yeah, it's been a long time. I can't remember if this is the actual definition, but it essentially means that nothing else exists outside of your own personal or my own personal like perception. Like
Okay.
literally, the world disappears when your eyes close. I can't believe that the moon actually exists because I haven't been there. I know there's
Mm.
something that looks like something, that what somebody tells me is the moon is out there, but also does it matter because it's not impacting me right now, or well, outside of the tides and gravity and science.
Just all the important
But
stuff.
right. But yeah, that all led me into like, okay, yeah, this is like way too much of a like a black and white type of way. Like this is like, obviously there's more than just me, and the world doesn't disappear when I blink or when my senses are out of it. The tree does make a noise, like, in the woods and stuff like that. Um, and then I think, and then like just through my jobs and stuff like that, and this is in no way trying to insult people that I met after this point in my life, but going back and thinking on it, like I think I came to the conclusion that human beings, I mean, we're narcissists, like and we, you have to be, right, in order to survive and want to continue and procreate. But like we, we keep building these deities in the images of ourselves. We keep attributing our own feelings and values to them, and like, to justify the way that we behave. Like everything is like a self-aggrandizement Ponzi scheme. Like just, we're just keep trying to like shuffle all these cards underneath us to build ourselves higher and higher and higher. But thankfully, humans are also social creatures too. And so our narcissism is tempered by how the next person is perceiving us, and that we are looking as good to them as we are to ourselves. And so, it's not like some melee or free for all. And so, a lot of the questions out there of like, oh, how do you know you're good? Or like, how do you know not to just go out and stab somebody? Like, if you don't have these values, these faith-based values, like, to live off of, it's like, well, because regardless of that, like we are ingrained social creatures. It's why monkeys don't just stab themselves, or any herd creature like just wreaks havoc, outside of, some crazy circumstance. Like, And that's, I think, where we're at. There's so many humans now. Those crazy circumstances are just much higher percentage. But outside of that, like, we all live, in the small communities. We, regardless of how extreme our perceived values may be, you're still cordial. Like, it's when that sense of, I don't know, when you start to disappear, I think, as like a face in the crowd, like, and you don't think your voice is being heard, or your opinions you know are making an impact, and suddenly you just go nuts, and then do some terrible stuff to get on the news, and hey, now I mean something. But
Right.
no, I mean, that's all still people reaching out to somebody else.
Hmm. So you're going through this battle then of like, okay, well, there has to be like other people besides me, right? Like I have to be like a human. And I think at one point, and I actually think that was just at John's funeral. So your father-in-law,
Hmm.
my stepfather-in-law passed away suddenly, and um, I think you were the people that got up and spoke, and I think you at that point had called yourself a humanist, and that stuck with me because I at the time I didn't really know what it meant, but it sounded, like it would resonate with me without even kind of knowing the meaning. How did you get to that point from college and figuring it out? Existentialism might not be where you want to be a part of. What
Hmm.
what was it like to go on that journey, and then what did humanist mean for you?
So I got there. So, I mean, I'm close with my family, but I'm not close, like, honestly, I'm not even close like I'm close with, like, Kelsey's family and, like, you
Sure.
guys. Like, I mean, we definitely see each other on the holidays and stuff like that, but mainly it's been, you know, kind of like two boats docking for a minute, and, like, being like, hey, how's it going? And then, you go on, and, like, there's love there, there's camaraderie there. Um, and they're, I loved them to death, and, like, they're all my family. My cousins, my aunts, my uncles, my parents. But
Hmm.
they, I sometimes wonder how different, how I really behave, I guess, or how I am, to you and to my friends, if they saw all of that, because there's still a wall there. Just like, from, like, I don't know, like, I always felt like I had to be like a certain way with them. But when I
Mm.
was out of college, and I had dropped out, I was floundering, just trying to make money, and then stumbled into a bar job. Um, and the group of friends that I made there, um, and the group of friends that I brought into there, like, they really felt like a family to me. Like I was really being 100%, like, letting all the walls down, and they were seeing it all, and they were accepting that. And I don't know, maybe it sounds a little cliche-ish, but, like, to me, that was a big moment. And those people are still, some of the closest people in my life.
Yeah.
And I think I realized at that point, like, I wasn't, like, if I needed something, if I needed a hand, there was somebody there that was in that friend group that was, like, giving it to me, or being there for me, or helping me out, or, just whatever, talking me through it, or whatever. Um, and I think I've realized at that point that, we humans, like, we don't need to have a faith, or a god, or a deity, or, you know something like that, like a, priest or someone telling us what we need to do. Like, we need more of this. We need more of just being involved with the people that are around you, and having that network reach out and out, and building ourselves up, instead of, pouring money into a mega church, or, a giant temple, or, we don't need these regular trips, like, to, get in touch with our guilt. Like, you know we just need the acceptance and love of the people that are dearest to us, and just keep passing that along. and trying to build ourselves up and, like figure out those issues ourselves instead of, like, calling out and trying to get an answer from, somewhere, in the sky. Like, and I think when I said that I was a humanist, which, that's awesome that you recall that. Like John was one of those people that from the first time I met him, like was like he gave me a chance, based on the trust of, his daughter. I did not look good on paper, like, hey, I'm your daughter's 7-year older boss at this bar we work at. I love her, and now I'm meeting all of you guys.
Right.
It's nice to meet you. And no hesitation. Like
Yeah.
he met me. He gave me a chance. There was no like, oh, like I'm going to intimidate you or anything like that. No, John was like a 100% open person at home. Like doors always open, community people coming in and out. Like he was always in touch like that. Is amazing. Like he to me was like, you know, a priest like all on his own,
Right.
and that's kind of like where I wish, where I wish in the future, like, maybe some societies or some communities can turn to. Like, we don't need to have a church to be a community area. Can we just have like a community center for the sake of it just being a place where people can come together and like talk about what's happening in the area, whatever, get, do all the stuff that, that I applaud really, like, religious institutions doing. Um, but maybe more directed at just humans and humanity instead of, a deity.
Right. No, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, you're kind of giving me some things to think about as well as I just reflect back on my thoughts on organized religion and my experiences. But I mean, as you think about moving forward as a father, as a husband, where do you see religion playing a role in your world? Will it? What do you do with kids and talking to them about religion? Because you probably have the most interesting background out of people that I know, just because you started it as a Christian without having your family really being attached to it, and then went
Hmm.
to Buddhism and then kind of fell out of it completely. Like that's not the stereotypical path. So what do you what are you going to take away from that moving forward? As a again as a family man.
I mean, from there, like, I would hope to never settle. I,
What's that
definitely
mean?
don't
Just like
have like,
always searching, or
yeah, like I definitely don't have all the answers. And, part of this was coming on, the show with the podcast with you and listening to, very different experiences so far in the episodes that I've caught. And seeing their perspective and like, whether I 100% agree or not. Your other guests had totally logical, very passionate reasons for believing the way they do. And, there's, and I, I know there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot great with that. I just hope, I'm just afraid of the institutions because they can be taken
mm,
advantage of so well.
sure,
It's a powerful machine that can be easily taken over by one person, which has been shown several times. And so with like raising a family and like, having Wilhelmina, maybe other kids too, I just want them to always be willing to challenge themselves, to critique their own thought, you know, um, like I had this thought the other day where I can't remember who I was listening to, one of your guests, but it was talking about missionary work. And I thought how funny missionary work kind of is because I felt like missionaries should not go to other countries and talk to the general populace. They should go to the other powerful religious institutions that are in that country and compare notes
mm,
or open dialogues directly because these are the people who also have an education in opposing thought. And if those people had open dialogue, and that was what missionary work was more like, how much more understanding, or how much more not maybe not homogenization, but just like less alienness, like less me versus them, less like you're not part of my group, so you are either part of to be converted, or just keep you away from everybody else like that I'm trying to like convert, like type of thing.
Right.
Like if we were able to have these types of talks between over boundaries, I should say, like how great would that be? And that's what I hope to leave with William. I hope she fights with me every day. I hope we have little doctrination fights. Oh man, I'm like afraid I'm raising an opposite kid here, but as long as like she's willing to talk to me about it, and like is open to discourse, like that is great. I think that's the key.
Well, smart people raise smart kids, and you and Kelser are extremely smart people. So I'm sure that there will be some debate going on at the U household in the very near future. Um, so as you think about like where you are today in life, and I know I opened with a similar question at the beginning, but like how do you think about faith now? Like now we have the context, right? Of you have all these different experiences, you've done research, you were indoctrinated in some of this stuff, but as we think about how we live as humans, how we think about death, how we think about what else is
Mm.
out there, like what do you think about like how do you frame what you've learned with what you've come across since then into what you are today? Like how what's your structure of what is this all about?
So, I mean, I think what this is all about, I mean, I think this is still about uplifting like humanity, humans as a whole. Um, and I think doing that starts with yourself, and I think that's one of the great kind of frameworks that religious institutions have. They make everybody want to be better. Most you know most of the rules are for improving yourself as a person, and improving your community and your family and your friends, and living a higher, more respectable standard, I guess, of life. And so for me, it would be taking that and having faith and growing faith in myself, and having and growing faith in the people that I surround myself with, and I think it seems easy and it seems logical, but I know that I need to work on faith in myself. Like heck, like I think I should go talk to a psychiatrist at some point, because there's definitely stuff to bounce around. But to be able to have some more courage in myself to go out and take risks, and be able to challenge myself, like I said before, with other people and other ways of life, and other ways of thinking. um, that can only be good. And if I can surround myself, or encourage people around me to do that too, I think that is that wave that spreads of betterment, I guess, for
So
people.
the faith in yourself, then, does that mean faith that you can find the greater good, or faith that you are on the right path, or faith that you can find out information? What's that faith in yourself phrase mean for you?
Um, I mean, kind of all those things. Like I'm literally thinking faith. Like I'm thinking like I am Samson, and I am like, I am between two pillars and blinded, and like, one side is my past, and one pillar is my future. And I just do not have faith in myself to move past those things. But no, it's like, I have so much faith in me, like I can move this immovable weight, that is my crushing doubt and financial situation, and everything else that I perceive that I put in my path. And I can have the faith to move those gigantic loads, and go forward, and keep being better and doing better. Um, I think that's what it is to me. It is having that ability to build that adrenaline like strength to overcome, previously impossible odds. Um,
That's the
yeah.
that's the second time you've mentioned Samson. So like, are you trying to tell us you're going to cut off your hair here pretty soon?
Oh God, that's when
That's
he lost it all, man.
what
That's
I'm
why I gotta
saying.
grow it all the way out.
That's what I'm saying. No, for those that aren't familiar with the Bible, Samson, the source of his power was his long hair. So I don't know what Kai's trying to tell us here, man. How long
Maybe I
you
need to
been?
challenge myself that way.
Maybe. How long you been growing out your hair now?
Oh man, I mean, I go through. I cut it back about every year and a half. I think it's been about a year and a half right now, but I cut it pretty short the last time. But it's anywhere
Well,
between 3 years to a year and a half.
shorts. That's relative. I think when we're talking about Kai. I mean, so for those that aren't watching on video or not watching this reel, Kai
Oh
has
yeah.
some luxurious. Oh yeah, give it down for us. Let's see what we got
Oh
going on.
man, it's
Oh
crimped. It's
yeah.
so crimped. Wow.
Uh, uh, body by swap. God damn, you're yeah, I miss my long hair. I'm thinking about maybe
Ooh,
going down that track again.
I
It's
miss Ponytail Miles.
yeah, dude, man bun miles. Um so I mean, I guess the logical like conclusion to this whole thing is we started this by congratulating you on Mina, which is amazing. I can't wait to meet her actually in person. But what are you going like what boundaries will you set up for her? Like what will be I know you mentioned you want to have, conversations and debates with her, but like what do you as a parent when you've had all these experiences, what are the guardrails? How do you tell a kid you have all of this information at your disposal, go forth and just pray they don't become involved in like QAnon or something like that? Like
Oh my God,
how
I
do you
know, right?
keep the guardrails on by also giving them the freedom to see what the hell else is out there?
You know, that is a thought that scares me so much
You're
because
welcome.
I I know when I was growing up, the fact that I had very few eyes on me and having the freedom to make a lot of stupid mistakes and have nobody catch me doing them, but realizing that there were mistakes that I made, or that at least I was like, oh, okay, glad I got away with that. Maybe next time I don't do it again, or I do it smarter. Like that built a lot of me that I like. A lot of the things that I respect the most about myself, and so I'm like, God, I would not want to limit her in any way. I mean, I look at Wilhelmina and I see an arrow fired into the future. And everything I say to her or touch, or contact, and, I am changing the trajectory of that arrow a little bit, except they are giant changes right now because I have so much leverage on her lifeline. Um, and so, yeah, sometimes it's almost crippling where I'm like, oh man, like, am I bouncing you too much? Like, am I making you addicted to bouncing because I'm bouncing you? So what is this? Like, how much of a deep impact am I making right now?
Yeah.
And I think I just need to know like that, I, that I'm going to love her no matter what. I think my job would be to make her clever enough, strong enough, fast enough that when she does make those mistakes, that she is able to, you know, find a way out of it, find a way through it, be brave enough to persevere through it. Um, I think that'd be it. Is helping her develop the skills to survive her own mistakes,
Hmm.
and I just need to like let her make her mistakes. You know, maybe show her empirically how cool it is to like do safe and responsible things like your dad, that you love very much, and you're like, oh yeah, if dad does it, then that's the way I should do it too. Like I should,
Right.
I don't know, never speed. I should never sneak out. I don't know. Should
Yeah.
always call them. Man, dad always calls me at appropriate times. I guess I should do that too. I don't know. Who knows? There's not even going to be phones in the future anyway. So,
That's true. We're just gonna think and be talking with somebody real fast. Um, No, I think that's beautiful, man. I think you know, I'm not a parent. I got 2 dogs and a cat, and we're not having those sort of existential questions. Still
I
can't
don't
say
know,
that word,
man.
by the way.
That's a good
Um,
start.
but you know, I think it's interesting when you talk to new parents, especially new parents, about like what's your plan. I mean, because some of my best friends, you know, it's you know we're baby's born, you got to get her baptized, and then you get them into, you know, whether it's vacation Bible school or Sunday school or going to
Hmm.
temple, you know, whatever it is, but you have to like start that off on the right foot. And I think for our generation specifically, it's not the norm. It's not the norm to have a baptism or you know, a catechism celebration or
Oh
whatever it
yeah,
is. It's
it's
just
falling off
different now.
now.
Right,
Hmm.
right. And I just find that fascinating. And I think it's cool that parents are just taking different views on that. But yeah, man, you know, it comes back to just me being thankful that you even had the time to have these types of conversations. And you know, I think I want to have more conversations with you at family functions of just like, what is it? What is the good? What is out there? Because I think you
Oh
know
yeah.
you just have such a unique perspective, and you're very well spoken, and I just appreciate the time here.
Oh, thanks, Miles. I mean, it'd be great to, whatever, find a train of thought and try to follow that all the way to whatever conclusion might lead to. I love doing things like that. It'd be great.
I got a good documentary for you before we go. It's on Netflix. It's called um, to infinity, I think. But
Ooh.
it's talking about like what infinity means, and so it's in I think 4 or 5 different parts. It's only like an hour and a half, but they talk about like if you had an infinity hotel, what would that even look like? You know, because if you had an infinite amount of rooms, but you can't put a number at the end of infinity because infinity is the end, how do you continue to add more guests in if there's an infinite amount of guests and there's an infinite amount of rooms? And what you do is everybody moves down one room, right? So one
Yep.
goes to two, two goes to three, and then you have a new room. And so it's thought experiments like that that I think you would just find very interesting. And one of them, the reason why I talk about this is because they talk about black holes and the infiniteness of what a black hole is. And there's some theoretical physicists now that are thinking that a black hole could actually be a wormhole to another realm where there's just like different Kais and different Miles running around talking
Oh
about
yeah. Uh-huh.
something that's ridiculous. And so I think you'd like it. And the other thing I think you might like is the movie that came out, Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh yeah.
Um, very very good. And it's on that same sort of line
That's
of thinking. So
just that infinity thing. I remember when I was a kid and I was talking back to, God, I wish I could remember who it was. It was a religious person of some sort, and I was trying to do the infinity argument with them,
right,
and I'm like, if there's an infinite amount of people, like, or infinite amount of worlds, like why isn't there life out on other planets? There can't just be conscious life here, right? And then I remember the person being like, well, if there is an infinite amount of worlds out there, then doesn't that just make more possibility for worlds that don't have anything like human life? There could be infinity out there, and there's just more of less of things like us, of people. It's just
and we're all the
just
more
more.
special.
Yeah, we're even. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it just makes more space for just empty worlds out there, and I could not think of an argument against it. So I'm like, that's what infinity is. I'm like,
Yeah,
I guess so. Like, what?
you say, "Nuh-uh." Cool. All right, Kai. Well, again, I appreciate the time here. All the best to the new fam. Can't wait to hold little Mina. Say hi to Kelsey, and wish you all the best, man.
So soon, Miles. I can't wait for you to meet her.
Can't wait, dude. Thanks again.
Later.